I feel all, like, flushed already.
Don't worry, you can edit it out.
No, yeah, this is why we have GarageBand.
It is.
Okay. Okay, so hi to anybody who's listening.
Mm-hmm.
Folks of the world.
Yeah, hi.
Or maybe just, like, the two people we shoved this podcast in front of.
Hopefully.
Yeah. We don't have a name for the podcast yet. That's something that'll come up at a later date as this evolves, because it's, we're just trying. We're just killing time.
Yeah, we're doing our best.
Yeah, we're doing our best. So...
Who are we?
Who are we? Do you want to go first? Because I'm long-winded.
Okay. So I am, I think we've established I'm Ghost Boy.
Yes.
Yes. I am an aromantic, asexual, queer person who uses he, him pronouns. So to define some of that stuff, asexual being someone who does not experience sexual attraction. That's just a broad definition. It can mean different things to different people. Aromantic means someone who doesn't experience romantic attraction. And I think I said another thing about myself, queer. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but just, like, not straight.
Yeah.
Which can be inherent in ace and queerness linked together. But, like, yeah. So that's my little intro.
Okay. All right. I'm going to try and be as, like, concise as you were. So... labels, I'll admit, have been tricky for me throughout my life, but as of now that I'm 23, I consider myself sexually fluid, or queer, as some would refer to it, just meaning I've often had a very swinging scale when it comes to that. I identify as gray sexual and demisexual, so gray sexual being that I experience, in my opinion, very little sexual attraction. It's not void. I have experienced sexual attraction, but yeah, it's not often. So gray sexual and demisexual, meaning that if I am going to have a crush on you, I'm going to know you for, like, several years.
Yeah.
Beforehand. I've just noticed that as a pattern with me. And I also identify as pansexual. So gender is not really something. I tend to lean more towards men, but I definitely have had my crushes on all the gender spectrum.
Me too. I'm definitely in that lump of category, and honestly, condolences to us both for dating men.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, listen, we just deal with the hand that we were dealt.
Yeah.
And we somehow made it through.
Yeah,
to this point in our lives.
No, that's great.
Yeah. Hashtag not all men. Hashtag all men.
Hashtag absolutely all men.
All men.
So, what we're doing this podcast for, at least to jump in to start with, is a subject specific to aromanticism. I wanted to talk about it because of aphobia, which is a term that means specifically, like, the oppression or, like, marginalization of asexual and aromantic people. And that's not something that gets talked about a lot. And I would like to just ask that even if you do not identify that way, you do hold on for just a little bit so that we can talk a bit about and go in depth about what that means. Because plenty of people in and out of the queer community have opinions about how fake ace people are.
Oh my God.
Yes. There's so much discourse. There's so much opinions about how you're just faking it, or, like, having a lack of sexuality doesn't mean that you're oppressed, blah, blah, blah. I think if you look into it, that is just a lot of repackaged biphobia, which is, like, the marginalization of and oppression of bisexual people, because people think that if you don't look a certain way, or if you don't openly date someone of the same gender, then you are not as oppressed as everyone else. It gets into the politics of passing privilege, and I'm sure we can do a whole new podcast about that.
And let me just that's my whole life. That's why labels been tricky for me, and gatekeeping has kept me from identifying a lot of a lot of different ways. So
absolutely. Gatekeeping is the worst. So what I at least want to talk about a little here is oppression of aro people. And since I've never heard public discourse about this, however, I have heard some about asexual people, although that's not widely accessible for the general public, I at least want to talk a little bit about my own thoughts about being an aro person and how much sometimes that sucks. So I'm going to read a little bit of a piece, and I'm going to get some feedback on it from my lovely friend here. Did you give your name?
Oh, right. I'm going by Robot Girl, which we have to say that this is a shared book. Like, that Ghost Boy gave me this book called How to Say Goodbye in Robot, and it was about an aro ace couple, sort of.
Yeah.
We can call them that. They were mostly friends, but also it was like anyway, read the book. It's great.
Yeah, How to Say Goodbye in Robot. It was one of the first things I'd ever read with an aromantic character next to The Hunger Games, but I'm sure that's very widely debated as to whether or not that's true.
Yeah, well.
You know.
A whole other thing.
Exactly. So, sticking to the topic, I'm going to dive into, my aro thoughts. So, I would say being made to feel continuously responsible for others' people's feelings towards you, /crushes, and obligated to give them a chance, quote unquote, and being societally coerced into being in relationships that never really feel good or right, are all ways that aromantic people are put through a shit ton of oppression, gaslighting, and negative impacts from the very start. So I'm going to take a break there. That was the first paragraph. Okay. And just to define gaslighting, that term developed specific from the idea of people who are being abused and continuously being told and made to feel crazy for not being abused. The way that I'm using that kind of is in that vein, so it might not be the right word. Apologies if there is a better word that I do not know. But, the idea that you are being told something is true when you know it is absolutely not.
Which is so common.
Yeah, your own experiences and sense of self being put on trial.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's, very common.
Do you want me to keep going into this, or do you want to just pause at that first paragraph and thoughts?
You can keep going into it.
Okay. So, even being told that you are missing something essential for happiness in life and not dating is a lie we all suffer the repercussions of at one time or another. So, whether you're aro or not. Being in relationships I was supposed to like but didn't, being told this was what would fill any void in my life, and convincing myself that being unsatisfied or distant in any healthy romantic relationship meant that I was a problem, are all ways that this actively harmed me. So those messages and intense romantic and dating culture that amatonormativity actively harms a lot of people. And to pause there, amatonormativity is similar to heteronormativity. Let me see if I can pull up an actual definition. Yes, so a tendency of society to treat romantic relationships as more valuable than non-romantic ones.
Oh.
So, granted, I will say, amatonormativity, that's a mouthful. That's a little bit of...
I don't know if I'll be able to remember that one.
That's a little bit of inaccessible jargon. I will absolutely admit that. It's a bit academic, but, just so you know, there's a word for it.
Which I like having words for things. That's good.
Yeah, so the pressure of, valuing romantic relationships above all other types of relationships. Mm-hmm. So, especially aromantic folks, but I would say everyone suffers a certain degree as a result of these pressures. And even the fact that I actively try not to be aro, to actively reject an inherent part of myself I know deeply to be true through living my life and recognizing my own behavior and feelings, is a sign that we live in a romance-enamored world that puts far too much emphasis on monogamous companionship.
I just, wow. Oh my gosh.
Those are some thoughts and feelings.
Those are such thoughts and such feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It's wild that it's I've had trouble saying, oh yeah, I'm aromantic or asexual, but I relate so strongly to all of that. Mm-hmm. It's just so relevant to me. And it makes me wonder if even people who don't identify as aromantic or asexual, well, you kind of said that.
Yeah.
That it's we all suffer from this insane pressure that we put on, what is it?
I've heard it described as a religion. The way that our society centers romantic love, and even just I would highly recommend reading up on the history of romantic love, the way that it's put in the mainstream narrative. So by that, I mean we all know that there was a time where marriage wasn't necessarily for companionship or love. It was for breeding political alliances, the trading of property, a dowry given to people, and it wasn't always about the centering of romantic feelings, but there's also definitely a turning point in storytelling.
Yeah, with oh gosh, is it Charlotte Bronte? Is that who I'm thinking of?
Sure.
She did Jane Eyre. I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And, like, that whole era of Pride and Prejudice and Jane Austen is who I was thinking of. But, like, those are my earliest recollections of, like, very, like, romantic-centered. Like, the story was literally just about a romantic relationship.
Yeah, and not even just looking at that, although that is definitely important, because there was definitely a time, like, even if you look at, like, granted, I'm not an expert, but...
Neither of us are experts, let's just get that out
there.
there.
No, the only thing I am an expert in is, like, my identity, and, like, beyond that, I'm just grasping for some knowledge. But, like, from my understanding, like, there was definitely a time in, like, old myths and legends, like, say, in, like, old Greek theology, where, like, falling in love was a mistake.
I mean, even in the Bible.
Yeah, like, that's a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
And, like, I think that I've heard from, like, things that I like called the Cracks podcast, where there have been episodes specifically devoted to this topic, specifically talking about how there was a time where just, like, romance wasn't centered the way it was in mainstream media. Like, the fact that, when's the last time you saw a movie that didn't have a romance plot?
Honestly, the last one I remember was Rogue One.
Yeah.
That was, like, the last, and I remember me and my mom were so, like, surprised and relieved that, spoiler alert, at the end of the movie...
No kiss.
There was no kiss.
Yeah. I loved that. I love stories of friendship, which is why I like children's media so much, I think, is because, like, granted, whether or not it's because, you know, romantic relationships are seen as too grown-up or adult, or whatever, it's still nice to have children's media that just has a real good focus on friendship, because those are the most important relationships in my life.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually really funny that you bring that up, because when you told me you wanted to talk about this on a podcast, I was kind of, like, walking around muttering to myself, I do that.
Perfect.
And kind of, like, swooshing through the subject of, like, aromanticism and asexuality in my head, and I was thinking of, like... And it's funny, because I don't really watch a lot of children's media anymore, but like going through my teens, which was the first really, like, significant romantic relationship I had was in my late teens. I was watching a lot of, like, kid adventure movies, and, like, Stand By Me was, like, my absolute favorite film. Okay. And I was trying to kind of figure out, like, why I escaped through that so much. And of course, like, I had the, like, good fortune of having a good childhood, so it's, like, reminds me of my childhood, which was a safe-ish place for me. But, like, also, to me, the most romantic kind of relationship is friendship. And you just see, there's a line at the end of Stand By Me that literally makes me cry. You
literally have tears in your eyes right now.
Actually, like, because the whole thing, and I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but the whole thing,
that's what this is for.
Yeah, the whole movie is being narrated by Will Wheaton's grown-up self. And he's, like, writing a book about this thing that happened in his childhood or whatever, and talking about his friends. And at the end of the movie, when he's finishing up the book and he's finishing the story, he writes this sentence that says, and I'm kind of paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact thing, but it's basically, I don't think I'll ever have friends like the friends I had when I was 12 ever again. Does anyone? Does anyone, right? And it was just like, yeah, like, that purity in relationship is, like, so muddled as you get older, and especially with if you're gay and hanging out with a lot of people of the same sex, or, like, in my case where I am pansexual and I was hanging out with a lot of boys.
Yeah.
Like, I slowly watched, like, the purity drain, and maybe that's, like, the wrong word to use, but I slowly just watched the kind of honesty, maybe, of my relationship between, like, me and some of my closer guy friends just drain away completely. And I watched them start to see me as not robot girl, but a girl.
Oh, that's so rough.
It was rough.
There's an age for that, but it's funny that you mentioned that. My first instinct when you said, like, you never have friends like you do when you were 12, I think one of two things. One, I do a little bit relate to that, because growing up, I absolutely clung to, like, a quote-unquote tomboy identity. I really tried to, like, mimic and to, like, hang out with the boys, and there was a certain degree that I got that, but then you're right, you know, I grew up and I eventually started getting the distancing of that friend group. But the other part of me thinks is when I was 12, I wasn't a real person. Like,
Right.
that's not everyone's experience, but, like, for one, I have a very hard time remembering my childhood for reasons, but the other thing is I was not true to myself when I was 12. I was very much hanging around people and copying people that I was told, you know, that's who I was supposed to look like, that's what I was supposed to be like. That was around the time I started, like, growing out of tomboyishness and supposed to, you know, be buying all of the girly girl clothes and looking at my friends like that. I don't know, it was weird. So I way more value my friendships now, just in the sense that, like, I'm not faking it. I didn't know I was
Right.
faking it, but I'm not faking it anymore.
Right. Well, yeah, that's where, like, just a huge difference in experience comes into play. Because, like, for me, I definitely felt a lot more genuine as a child.
Oh, wow.
So it's like... But it's interesting, though, because now, like, where I'm at now in my life, just going through what I've gone through with, like, my mental health and everything, I find myself circling back to that version of myself.
Yeah.
Like, I actually do find my relationships now, I'm, like, kind of forcing them to be pure again. Like,
Yeah.
but it's just, for me, it's been, like, putting in those boundaries, which I've always had trouble with.
Yeah.
Is, like, but, like, finding those boundaries. But, yeah, it's, like, definitely, like, just... It totally depends on your story.
Well, it is kind of nice that you mentioned, like, the circling back to purity, but that's important. It's not completely lost. Like, I will say, I get very emotional watching stories of children, and because there's a longing there, like, not just a nostalgia, but, like, a missed opportunity. And I know that that's a little bit of a common experience with trans people, is, like, you know, trans girls may not have gotten the opportunity to have, like, the sleepovers and slumber parties in childhood, so there's a little bit of, like, wanting for that, or, like, trans boys not getting to, like, you know, learning how to skateboard, which, side story, I did try to learn how to skateboard this summer. Don't do it as an adult. You're not as durable.
Yeah, those bones don't heal the same.
They don't. I fucked up my foot for half a year. But,
Oh,
like,
God.
Anyway, so, yeah, like, for instance, like, seeing it,
Right.
the 2017 version for the first time, I went and saw it in theaters twice. I went out and bought the book. I was completely enamored with this idea of childhood friendship in a way that I did not have access to.
Oh, that makes... Oh, God.
Hurts your heart, right?
It hurts my heart so much, yeah.
And considering the emotional impact and, like, reaction we're both having here, I think it is a fucking travesty that more people don't value or talk about friendship this way.
Yeah, well, yeah, and my specialty is getting away from the point, but it's, yeah, like, to come back to the original point, yeah, that value of friendship, that's what I was trying to get at with bringing up that story, is how my friendships when I was a kid, just in my experience, the most important relationship you could have was a friendship.
Oh, yeah.
At 12 years old, the most important relationship you had was with your friends.
And the most uncomfortable, sorry to cut you off, but the most uncomfortable I found were romantic.
Yes.
Because they felt so forced.
It was ew. It was cooties.
Yeah.
It was whatever.
I don't know about your experience, but, like, for me, I'm seeing like a circle, like a full circle for that. Like, when I was a kid, picking a crush was a source of stress.
Oh, hugely.
Yeah.
Huge anxiety inducer.
So much anxiety of just, like, not just, like, will they like me, but also, like, who do my friends want me to like? Who do my friends not want me to like? Like, who am I supposed to go to the dance with? Like, that all sucked.
Yeah.
And now I'm grown up, and, like, it equally sucks. So this is my aromanticism speaking, but, like, I can't tell you what a damper it is to find out that, like, someone was talking to me just because they wanted to hook up with me.
Oh my God.
Or, like,
yeah.
that they don't just want to be, like, really good friends, that they want something else from me.
I've actually had nightmares about that happening with people. Like, I've met people and I'm like, oh, they're so cool. And I'll, like, have stress dreams where they're, like, asking me out.
No! The worst!
Like,
the worst!
Oh, why is this happening? I'm so glad that was a dream. And then you check your Facebook messages and you're like,
Just
oh my God.
in case.
It wasn't a dream. No, yeah, it's definitely, well, and yeah, so, like, for me, growing up was seeing people start to completely reduce the value they put on their friendship with you, and they're either being like, okay, are we gonna get together, or can I ditch you to get together with someone else? Like, that was really what happened with most of my friends. And it's actually funny, not intentionally, all of my friendships ended. Like, all of the ones that, like, I still have, like, OMG, stop saying people's names. She's my OG.
Yes.
from my childhood, and she's family, so it's hard to shake family. No, not that I'd want to shake her, but still. But, like, all of my friendships that did end from my childhood ended when they got a partner.
Yeah.
Which I just find, I was like, well, that's a weird freaking pattern. Like, why is that like, literally I had 3 very close friends that I stopped being friends with. Not because they got a partner, but it just so happened that that's when we stopped putting the effort in, I guess.
We're definitely not taught how to have, like, balance or healthy relationships. Like, I will clarify that, like, I've had many relationships. And some of them good, most of them not. But, like, I don't know how long I've been aro. I don't know if it's been throughout my life or if it's something that changed, but all I can say is, like, I am now. And there was definitely, in my past few relationships, a recognition of that. But through that experience, I can tell you right now how hard it is to have, like, a healthy romantic relationship. Because everything in the movies, everything in the wedding videos on Facebook, everything...
I'm a wedding photographer, right?
Yeah,
so
everything in the mainstream cultural narrative, at least the one that I have access to, or the one that's shoved down my throat, which is, like, heterosexual white people. That narrative tells you, like, you're supposed to drop everything for them. You're supposed to...
Yeah, running down the streets in New York to get to tell them you love them.
And you don't learn time management. You don't learn that when you make your partner the priority, you lose everyone else around you. Maybe not lose, but, like, you definitely put a damper on those relationships by not creating an even web and distribution of time management and care and, like, healthy communication. And treating my friendships not necessarily like relationships, but better has that way more benefited me than ever putting exhaustive effort into a romantic relationship.
Yeah, definitely. Like, amen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, like, I like watching my friend. I realize maybe I shouldn't say her name.
You can bleep it out later.
I can bleep her name. Yeah, just if there's a weird bleep
Redacted.
somewhere in the podcast, just know it's because I'm blocking out people's names. But my friend, who I'm close with now, she's watched all of her other friends besides me, the OG single, but she's had, like, major problems in all of her other relationships because she has friends that completely ditch her and, like, prioritize their romantic relationships over the relationship with her. And it's funny because me and her have been through a lot of, like, weird situations together where, like, the same person liked us both, or we both liked the same person. We always made sure we prioritized each other.
Good.
Because we're like, we've been friends since we were born, like, this is more important. And so we don't understand, like, when we see people doing that, and when she sees her other friends, like, totally, and not, like, of course we understand, like, you fall head over heels and you get all gaga and whatever.
Yeah.
You're gonna want to spend a lot of time with that person. But, like, really just, completely ditching their friendships for their romantic relationships.
It's literally such a waste of time.
I know, and then they all end up broken up with and heartbroken, or they break up with them because they find out the person's a jerk or something, and then they come running back and they have to fill you in on the last 2 years of their life that you have not been a part of. And it's just, I mean, and those are more extreme cases with people who don't have the same boundaries as some people might have in place. Because there's definitely people who are romantically inclined individuals who have found a better balance than that.
Yeah.
But just not her friends. So.
Absolutely. So, just to like round back, because the whole point of this was to get on tangents. It might as well be called that, tangents.
Yeah, there's a good the tangent.
I do like that we've been talking about like universal experience, just in regards to like how do we teach people to have healthy romantic relationship with boundaries and like to have a healthy support system. But I do like want to touch on like a vulnerable part of like being aro, and I was wondering if you related. And if you don't, I'm very interested to see how you have this type of confidence. It's
Okay.
possible. Just the part where I talk about being actively trying not to be aromantic.
Right.
This with being asexual and aromantic, I don't feel like there is a space or that I have a choice in public to be either of those. I've spent a lot of time carving out like a queer identity in the queer community because, you know, I dated people of all genders and it was a part of my life at one point. But now that it's not that and I can't change it, I know that deeply and internally. I still try actively to look for opportunities where I'm wrong.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like I feel like when people tell you it's, oh, you know, it's you haven't met the right person yet. It's like, okay, well, first of all, I've dated 12 people all across the gender spectrum, and like I don't think that it's me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I'm the problem.
Right.
I mean, I hope not, but even if I am, who gives a fuck?
Well, yeah, like, why do you need, even if, oh, God, like, listen, okay, so this one really cuts deep for me.
Okay.
And I feel like I wish I was, like, taking notes as you were reading, because there's so much that I could touch on in that, I'm sure, that I totally, like, I really do, like, super relate to that.
Yeah.
What you read at the top of the episode. But, wow, I have lived most of my life thinking I'm completely broken and, like, fucked up, and that, yeah, I need to... that whole idea of just find the right person who makes you feel the butterflies and makes you...
Butterflies suck and are overrated.
Oh, well, as somebody who has an anxiety disorder...
Yeah!
Let me just tell you...
Hi, hello!
Oh my God. Well, I mean, I could get into a whole story of what happened to me this summer. I mean, that's, you know, but that's a really long story. But yeah, as somebody who has had an anxiety disorder, finding a person that makes you feel the butterflies and trying to push through and have like this expected kind of normal, I'm using air quotes, romantic relationship with them, well, that almost killed me.
Yeah.
So like, not worth it. Not worth like trying to find the right person, not worth like forcing yourself into these shapes you don't fit in.
Oh, yes.
Which isn't that not essentially the queer experience?
Absolutely. And as much as it drives me up the wall to like hear the discourse of whether or not aro and ace people are really queer, quote unquote, I'm not going to dive into that today.
Right.
But I do definitely want to point out like that is absolutely a thing of just trying to push yourself into the norm and absolutely not fitting to your detriment.
Yeah.
Like, because...
Oh, my God. Well, sorry. Finish your thought.
Well, I don't know if I had an end of that thought.
Right.
It was really just like, yeah, I wish I could be like a voice of hope for like any aro people listening, to be just like, it is so great to finally realize, but like sometimes it sucks. The last relationship I ended, I realized I was aromantic and asexual. I realized like, I remember what it's like to feel sexual attraction, and this isn't it. And it wasn't just that person. I've tried with plenty of other people to get on some sort of level where I can feel that again, and it wasn't due to trauma. I had felt trauma, and I had also felt sexual attraction. Like, I had managed to make those things work in the past, but like, I realized that I had stopped feeling sexual attraction. I realized that I had stopped feeling romantic attraction, and that sounds tragic. And I realize now that I'm talking, and also I thought about this a little yesterday, I'm so scared of being the traumatized person that lives the tragic life of not being able to form a romantic relationship.
Oh my
But what is
God.
actually wrong with that? What is
Yeah.
actually wrong with being someone who has experienced trauma and who wants to live their life with healthy friendships instead of seeking something that doesn't benefit them or make them feel good?
Oh my gosh.
I think it's pity. I think I
Yeah.
fear pity.
Okay, fearing pity. Right.
Not just that, but also, like, oh God, I could say that, like, I don't want my family to look at me weird and ask me when the wedding is, but I think they're going to stop asking me when I'm going to have a child now that I've had some sort of, like, transitional surgery.
Right.
But even then, they shouldn't be asking in the first place. And I can only imagine what you're going to go through in terms of, like, you getting older and people just constantly asking you, when's the baby-making factory opening up?
yeah,
In nicer words, but barely.
Yeah, no, oh God, that's already starting to happen. That's like going
Garbage.
every baby shower I go to, I'm like, oh, congratulations. They're like, you're next. I'm like,
Definitely
no,
not.
though. I'm not.
I for sure am not.
Sorry to like shrug off my genetic responsibility or biological responsibility or whatever, but like, fuck you.
I mean, also, I do not see you as the type of person that's going to have a gender reveal party, but that might be another episode.
No, oh my God, yeah, like shoot me in the face. No. Yeah, but to touch back on that whole thing you said about like forcing yourself, like if say the scenario was true where like you were avoiding romantic relationships or sexual relationships or a combination of those things, due to trauma, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
And I know somebody who had severe sexual trauma.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to date. It was a huge trigger for them,
Yeah,
obviously, as you would assume. And you know, I watched this person, just every one of their friends, they treated it as part of this person's recovery to constantly be like, you gotta date.
Yeah.
You gotta get out there. It's gonna be part of getting over your trauma. And it's like, okay, first of all, I have a whole thing about getting over one's trauma. That's a whole other episode, too. But, like, what... Okay, besides, like, a massive triggering episode, like, what is this going to do for this person, really?
Make their friends feel like they're giving good advice.
Yeah, like,
That's
honestly,
the answer.
yeah.
That's what they're essentially getting out of it. And, yeah... I mean, even as I'm saying this, I know that in my day-to-day life, I still look at myself as like, well, maybe you just gotta try harder. But I do have confidence that'll stop. And I'll say why, which is I have dealt with imposter syndrome. Hardcore. I think that's something a lot of people deal with, but I'll say specifically in regards to my identity as a trans person and as a queer person. There was a time in my life, and, you know, there's low-key always a little bit of it, where you think, I'm faking it. I'm not queer enough. I'm not trans enough. But I'm now at a point, granted, a few years later, after coming out, where I can look at myself and be just like, could you be any other way? Like, if you've been trying. Like, you've been trying your whole life. Like, could you actually be any other way? And the answer is no. Like, I can't go back. Not just thinking about, could I be any other way, because you may actively put thoughts in your head, or society is, like, coercing you to fit more into, like, the normative structure of a person. But I think, can I go back? Can I go back to pretending? Could I walk up to someone and say I'm straight with a straight face? And the answer is no. Could I walk up to someone and tell them that, like, I'm a girl? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So
there's your answer.
Yeah.
Pretty clear and simple and straight down the line when you put it out in those terms. But I mean, I don't understand that specific imposter syndrome. But as you know, a feminine being in this world, I understand imposter syndrome.
Oh, absolutely.
And as somebody who is, you know, the reason I've struggled with labels is directly due to imposter syndrome. Is I'm because 1 in 5 dudes I might find myself attracted to, where 1 in 20 girls or 1 in 20 like non-binary folk or whomever I'll feel attraction to. So it's like, obviously I'm just straight and I need to ignore the rare but be it real crush that I have on this woman over here, or this non-binary person over here. So it's like that, you know, kept me, I said I was straight for years, and it always felt so wrong. Like, it just always, but it was like, well, but I guess where I lean more towards men, like, oh God.
Yeah, and I'm sure we've said this like a million times to each other, but just for the viewers out there, or the listeners in this case, there's absolutely this great and effective, and by great I mean awful, method of brainwashing, which teaches us straight is the default.
Yeah.
Cisgender, being, identifying with the gender you were assigned at birth, that is the default, no matter what. And everything else is just layers on top of it. At the core of it, you're still a cake. You're just putting icing on top to look a little different.
Just some frills that, offer up a lot of discrimination. So, like,
yeah, what great.
It's not exactly fun dressing. It's like you go through a lot of shit for it.
It's basically a Target.
Yeah.
But
ain't that the truth?
But, like, okay, just maybe that cake metaphor is not the greatest, but essentially what I'm saying is, like, we are being told straight as the default, and at no point was I told that, like, inherently you just might not be, like, what people say you are.
Which, is that not just true on even, like, a
Every
more
level.
Microcosm, too, of just even people who, maybe they identify as cis and straight, but, like, you're never who other people say you are, you're who you know you are.
Yeah, I frequently compare my, like, gender journey, and I guess I should probably, in general, queer journey, to, like, religion. I was baptized as a Christian and was told I was a Christian. I was born and told I was a woman, and I believed that for a while, and then I grew up, and I started having my own thoughts and feelings, so I went atheist, I went non-binary, quote-unquote, identified as non-binary, just as, like, I guess a buffer for myself to, like, be like, oh, I'm not what everyone said I was, and I need time to figure that out. And now, my religious state is up in the air.
Right.
But my gender is a little more grounded in feeling like a demi-guy, I guess is the word I'll use today.
Right. Is there a definition for that?
Yes. That would be having a gender... I hate the term gender identity. Your gender is partially rooted in the quote-unquote male side of the spectrum.
Right.
But other parts of your gender can be rooted other places. So, like, I would say non-binary guy, for instance. However, I don't frequently use the word man because I consider men a demographic of people I don't fit in with, whereas guy or dude is a much more casual version, and, like, I consider it a softer version of men, which might be where my gender identity lies.
Right, okay. Yeah, it's funny because whenever I say man, it feels so harsh or something.
It is harsh.
There's something so angular and, like, there's all these hard edges to it. You're a man. But,
Be
like,
a man.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that whole connotation of, like, it's like, oh, it's so rooted in something that seems so much more toxic.
Yeah.
Not saying that being a man makes you inherently toxic.
Oh,
Let's
God,
not
no.
lose our heads.
No, I would be a toxic waste pile.
Yeah, but, like, it's definitely, like, just that language. See, I love dissecting language. I know, like, people get so angry about, like, why does it matter? No.
Etymology and origins matter.
Yeah, I think,
little.
and even just the feeling of a word, how it rolls off your tongue. Like, guy does seem so much softer. It feels like a different entity.
Oh, I realize I'm making a motion. I'm making the motion of, like, turning a volume dial down.
Right.
To describe guy. It's like man is at, the red side of the spectrum, and then you just turn it down to, like, a nice little guy green center zone, maybe.
That man is like, that's
maybe
like
it's yellow.
Heavy into the butch, isn't it? It's heavy into it.
Oh, God. What were we talking about?
I don't know. That caught me that you said that, though, because I always love to feel words. I really like to feel them in my soul and see how they get, like, more meaning from that, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were we talking about?
I guess the only thing I was going to say... Yeah, homophobia, queerphobia, aerophobia, aphobia. I guess the only question I really have, or at least, like, the last part of what I was thinking was societal coercion.
Okay.
Like, societal coercion into situations that do not feel right to you, but people are telling you it's what's right for you. So that is definitely how, trigger warning for sexual assault. I am not going to go into deep depth about a story, but I am just going to mention the word rape. The term corrective rape.
Oh,
like,
God.
Yeah, that's a thing, not just for, like, queer women. It was coined by queer women, but the people that coined the term also say it can apply to anyone. So, like, the term corrective rape is definitely something that exists for ace people. So, like, also not going to go into any stories about that, but I'm just saying, like, even making me truly believe that this is what I wanted, that, like, sex and romantic relationships are what I want, was such not only a waste of my time, but, like, an imposition on, like, the majority onto my life that, like, really fucked up my understanding of how I should be living my life. So yeah, just romantic relationships fucking suck when you don't want them.
Yeah.
And should we talk about different types of attraction? I just mentioned like 5 things. Let's hear your thoughts. I'll bring it back to different types of attraction.
On the societal coercion?
Yeah, do you have any thoughts or feelings about that?
I think that's something that's fairly... It's a new thing that I'm exploring in my own life. And I haven't read a lot on it. So it's hard for me to say too much, but I definitely see it.
Yes.
Like, I definitely... And what you say, again, with this kind of corrective rape, holy shit, yeah. Like,
yeah.
I totally see that in ways where, you know, my biggest fear is being somebody who's gray sexual. I'll see if I identify as asexual eventually, but... yeah, but where sex is, like, just a really uncomfortable thing for me and, like, really not my priority really ever. My greatest fear was, like, getting into a relationship and me having a lack of boundaries, not being able to be like, I don't want to have sex, because it would just be hugely traumatizing. I didn't really know why, because I didn't have the language to say I just don't feel sexual attraction, or at least not most of the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that's, but it's like, okay, well, you have to try so you can get to that, again, air quotes, normal place. Mm-hmm. Like, that is such a thing. Mm-hmm. That is such a thing.
Yes.
And, like, I hear so many people, like, lesbians, too, going through, like, well, I'm not really attracted to men, but I guess I have to try this.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, it's just, and I mean, try what, if, you know, you want to try things, but, like, definitely that's where societal coercion definitely comes in, for me anyway.
Mm-hmm. And I think I'm specifically using that word, granted, gonna put my own bias in, is because I was made to read an article from a second-generation feminist. Is that what it's called? First-generation feminism? Yeah, second-generation feminist in university. And this whole article just went into about how, like, there's a societal coercion for lesbians to be with men, and that is a type of societal quote-unquote rape, and I don't know how I feel about that. Maybe that's where my train of thought is going with this comparison, and if that just sucks and is inaccurate, I do apologize. I'm trying to figure out how to put language to what I feel as an aro person who is being put in a position by society where I am so ashamed and closeted that I can't even come out at queer functions. Right. And that being said, I also want to put a little asterisk on that. If I can't come out as aro-ace at queer functions, I sure as hell am not coming out as aro-ace at straight functions.
Oh my God.
Like, as much as I want to... I'm talking about queer communities because that's where I have experience, but, like, I do not want to hold them to a higher standard than straight communities. It is equally the responsibility of straight communities to be accommodating.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Well, like, telling any of my straight friends, which I have a lot of them, what's up with that?
Don't know. Sounds fake.
Sounds like fake news. Not to bring Trump into this.
Never.
But, yeah, like, when I was saying that, you know, I'm reading about asexuality, and it really sounds a lot like me. When I was saying this to my straight friends, oh my gosh, they just were like...
Hardcore invalidation?
They were just like, Emma, no, because you, like, dance sexy to music. And, right? Like, it's just like... it's like, no, I have, like, sexual expression. It doesn't mean that I want to have sex, though.
Also,
like,
it sounds like they're projecting sex on you and you're not actually participating in it, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm trying to explain the nuance, you know? I'm trying to explain, like, no, you know, like, I was saying I'm not sure of this label, and they're like, that's because it's not real. I'm like... Great. Okay, well, I'm not going to talk about this with you. Yeah. I'm just going to go over here to, my... cool friends.
Sick.
Just saying.
I'm glad I'm a cool friend.
Yeah, you're like the cool friend.
Oh, thank you.
No offense to my other friends who might be listening, but you're probably not cool. Don't worry about it.
Jesus Christ. All right. Well, on to the next topic. At least I want to talk about maybe 2 more things. I don't know. Glad I made that a song.
I think we have lots of time on this. We're at 44 minutes, which is good.
Twice the amount of time we meant to.
Twice the amount of time we meant, which is what I was expecting. We're still in a rational time for a podcast, though.
Absolutely.
And I banged the table again. Here we go.
Cut it in post. Okay. God, I've always wanted to say that.
Cut it in post. There you go.
So the different types of attraction that I am familiar with I think are worth mentioning. So we've talked about sexual attraction. We've talked about romantic attraction. To define those, I don't know if that's possible. It seems kind of like the people who understand it do and the people who don't probably don't experience them.
Yeah.
But that might be a general oversight. I guess I would just say romantic attraction is close to or around when you want to be in a romantic relationship with someone and feel the urge to be with them all the time and like kiss them and hold them and hug them and go on vacations and spend your life together. Those are just some examples of romantic feelings, maybe.
Yeah, I can attest to having some of those occasionally through my life.
Yeah, and then sexual attraction would probably be feeling an urge and a pull towards a person and wanting to do sexual things with them.
Right.
Probably.
Yeah.
Sounds real.
Sounds like something someone once did at some time.
Maybe. So I guess the other types of attraction, are you familiar with them? Not to quiz you, not to put you on the spot.
No.
Okay.
Like, I'm illiterate when it comes to a lot of this, which is why I've been so lost.
Okay, that's incredibly untrue, but okay.
Okay.
All right, so we got, I'm pretty sure, platonic attraction.
Right.
Which is, I guess you don't need to use the word attraction. I'm glad I almost said protractor. Platonic attraction being that, like, you see someone, you really want to be friends with them, definitely the way that we met.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes, totally.
How, I don't want to say having a friend crush on someone, although there is definitely a word for that. It's a squish. That's what that's called.
Squish, right.
Yeah, or that might be some fake-ass, like, intellectual bullshit, but...
Squish doesn't sound like intellectual anything.
No.
But, like, yes.
Yeah, so, like, when you see someone and you're like, oh my god, I'm so into being this person's friend, I want to hang out with them.
All my life.
Let's
my
talk.
life.
Let's talk for hours, and that's definitely how me and Robot Girl are friends. There is aesthetic attraction, which is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Yes, I'm super into that. And how I would like to describe aesthetic attraction is possibly in my notes, but I actually didn't plan this far in advance.
You have done so well so far with your planning and your notes and everything. I'm so impressed.
That's very sweet of you.
Just, like, so organized over here.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the way I would describe my lack of sexual attraction and actual aesthetic attraction. When you see a pretty and picturesque scene and nature or in art, you may want to be near that thing. Visit it a lot, own pictures of it, etc. You may be in awe of this art or nature and can make you and it makes you feel warm inside, but you don't get turned on by the art.
Yeah.
Or the skyscape. You do not want to fuck the ocean.
This is true.
Being around these things are nice and sweet, and it's not about sex at all. It's just admiration. Separately, when I feel arousal, it's like an itch. Like, sometimes I can ignore it, and sometimes I can't, and sometimes I enjoy the physical body sensations, and sometimes I just am not invested in the other person at all. So, like, not to dive too far into sexual attraction, because, like, I don't really want to talk about it that much.
Right.
But, like, that's sort of the separation I have in my mind.
Yeah, I hear you. I feel you. I'm here for it. Yes. For me, as a photographer, I want to take pictures of it.
Yes.
Like, I see someone beautiful. I see an aesthetic that I appreciate, and I immediately am like, please let me capture it forever. And it's not this thing where I'm like, I'm not a creepy photographer. There's a lot of creepy photographers out there who will ask you to get naked for their camera, and they're totally getting, like, turned on by it, and I find that a little bit gross.
No, it's entirely predatory.
Yeah, but for me, no, I see someone, and again, nothing to do with sex. And it's funny because I'm always so paranoid that I'm like, if I'm asking this person if I can take their picture and I'm like telling them they're so beautiful or whatever, I don't want them to think I'm hitting on them, because I'm not. I'm so not. It's just like, I want to capture your beauty. Like, I want to capture the beauty of a sunset, or capture the beauty of a forest, or
an outfit.
Yeah. And I mean, we're fashion people.
Yeah.
So like that we're very aesthetic based.
Yeah. So aesthetic attraction is something I definitely feel where I want to be near it. I want to be around it. And sometimes it's not it. Sometimes it's a person.
Yeah.
Like, literally, sometimes there are just people where it's just like, I just want to be near you.
I have aesthetic attraction to so many people.
Yes.
Like, and I think that's too, like, I've not to brag, but I feel like I have a good eye for models.
Yeah.
Because I have such a strong aesthetic attraction
Absolutely.
to people in particular. Like, I just see an energy on someone, and I'm just like, immediately like, that is incredible. Whatever I can do to capture that, like, yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right, and then the last type of attraction is one that I had to scramble to find information on, but it is called altruist. Apologies if that's mispronounced. I've only seen it on the internet.
Well, there you go.
So, it's a type of attraction that can't be described as being entirely or completely platonic or romantic. An attraction best described as wanting emotional closeness without necessarily being or at all platonic or romantic, and is used in the place of romantic or platonic suffixes. So if someone can be like bisexual or biromantic, but they can also be bi-altruist. Okay. So like, it's kind of exploring a type of queer platonic relationship. Now, what is a queer platonic relationship? Amazing question that I don't really have the answer to. I'm flipping through my notes. I don't have one, but have you heard of this? Queer platonic relationships?
I've heard it through your statuses on Facebook, I believe.
Oh, okay, oops. I didn't mean to be your sole source on this.
I mean, I could have Googled it after seeing the phrase, but then I got real distracted, probably by Tumblr.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so...
my bad.
That's fair. Queer platonic relationships are essentially partnerships that, like, the terms can be defined on their own. Originally, the term was made by aromantic people, but other people can use it. It's also described as, like, quasi-platonic relationships, quirky platonic relationships. I've seen them described all those ways.
That's adorable.
Yeah, QPP is the way I've seen that. And then people will refer to those partners as, like, goofy nicknames, like, well, I shouldn't say goofy. They can be just cutesy. Like, I swear, I think I've seen the term eggplants.
Wow.
I don't know why, but like, or zucchinis maybe.
Okay.
But I don't know. There's queer language that I don't know because I'm not that old. I'm not an old person.
There's only so much you can fit in so much time.
Exactly. But yeah, queer platonic relationships are essentially a different category, a third category of relationships that it doesn't necessarily have to be friendship, doesn't necessarily have to be like sex or a romantic partnership. But you may like want to be life partners, or you may want to like raise kids together, or you may want to like,
oh my God,
yeah, or like,
this is my life.
Yeah, so that's like a quasi or queer platonic relationships, and that can be based on altruism, altruism. That's an entirely different phrase. Altruist attraction.
Altruist attraction. Okay, I feel that, and I never had the language for it.
Yeah,
so
and
that's awesome.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to talk about it is because I want to fucking destroy the hierarchy that says, okay, when someone has a crush on someone, I know we're getting into awful icky territory there. When someone has a crush on someone and they say, I want to be more than friends.
Oh, I was just going to say that.
Why is that a hierarchy?
Literally, okay, you have no idea. Me and my mom have had so many conversations about how offended we are, genuinely, and I will say it, offended at the term more than friends.
Yeah. I
have never had a relationship that has been outside of a friendship that has been
more important.
Yeah, like that's just never, I've gotten into, my first experience with kind of romantic feelings and an almost romantic relationship was with someone I was friends with for like years and years and years. Yeah. So that was just like, no, our friendship just reached peak, in my opinion.
Perfect.
Like our friendship was just like, we were still best friends. That was the basis for any romantic attraction to come through for me, and that's a very personal thing. But like the last almost, again, I notice a pattern with me. I don't actually get into romantic relationships, but
you just flirt with them.
I just flirt. I just teeter around the edges. that relationship was bullshit. Like, it was just bullshit. It didn't even touch my friendships. Didn't even come close to touching how important my friendships are with me. Like, it was, I would say, and not, I don't want to create a hierarchy. Like, I'm with you. Let's destroy the hierarchy of relationships.
Yeah.
But if I had to, if a gun was to my head.
Friendship would be first.
Yeah, friendship for me would be at the top of that, because those are the relationships that pull you through the chaotic, often, and that's just what I see. I'm sorry, that's just what I observe. The chaotic mess of romantic relationships.
Absolutely. Like, I wrote a little bit of a piece for a friend's website. Oh, big shot over here. I wrote, like, a little blurb about being aromantic on Valentine's Day, which, you know, you think would be tragic, but I actually fucking love Valentine's Day because we call it, me and my friends call it Palentine's Day.
I got that phrase from you. I use it now.
Yeah, and, like, if there's a group of girls you want to do that with, you can call it Galentine's Day.
I like Palentine. I like the gender neutral.
Yeah, so, like, I did this thing for Palentine's Day, and where I really had to think about, like, okay, like, what do I value on this day? What do I love about it for Palentine's? And at the end of the day, it's that I love friendships because it is way more normal, at least in my experience, to be able to flex healthy boundaries in them.
Oh, so much more.
Because whether or not this is what healthy relationships have, or it's just what the relationships have been like in my life, I really hate that romantic relationships come with the expectation that the other person has access to your information and emotional state at all times.
Yeah, and
like,
your time.
Yeah, like, literally, if you're supposed to be dating someone, you're supposed to be in constant communication, you're supposed to be, like, always being able to tell what the other person's mood is or where they're at in their life. You're supposed to have access to, like, you know, their whereabouts or information or, like, what they're up to. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be in, like, a creepy stalker way, but, like, you're probably expected to text someone every couple days, or if you're having an emotional crisis, to, like, have that person be the person you rely on.
Yeah.
And I don't like that responsibility. It's not that I can't do that for my friends, but I like the option of saying no.
Yeah, which if you say no in a romantic context, you're a monster.
Yeah, you're neglecting them.
Yeah.
There's this weird infantilization language in romantic relationships.
Oh, baby.
Well,
right?
not just that. I mean literally just, like, quote unquote neglecting, quote unquote abandoning. It's like, how do you abandon or neglect an adult?
This is true. Oh, I mean, yeah. Oh, God. And I've met some people who are supposed to be adults, but as soon as you introduce any kind of romantic relationship into the equation, you want to see someone turn into an infant, like, immediately. It's so wildly unattractive to me. I'm just like, what, when... And I love taking care of people. I really do. Like, I love being able to do little feel-good things for people, especially my friends. I love being able to have people know that they can reach out to me and talk to me and stuff. That's just something that I can do.
Can verify. Big shout out to Robot Girl for being a really reliable friend.
Thank you. No, I put a lot of value on that, and it's just what I can, you know, it's in my ability. So, you know, if I can do it, I do it. But I lost my point a little.
Well, just the infantilization of people in relationships. We don't have to go super in depth about it, but it is a weird thing.
Yeah, it definitely...
Something that turns me off.
Yeah, well, just, I just find it opens up a door, and maybe this is just because I'm fresh off an experience where this happened to me, but, like, it opens up a door for emotional blackmail.
Yes! Where you have to say yes to someone.
Yeah.
Like, if your romantic partner is in a bad place, if you say no to helping them, you're, like you said, you become a monster.
Yeah.
And, like,
it's like, what good are you then?
Yeah, whereas, like, because you theoretically only have one romantic partner, asterisk, polyamory exists, but, like, everyone knows you can have a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
And, like, granted, I have been put in shitty situations where friends have been like, you're my only friend, you have to take care of me. That's bullshit.
That's the same amount of emotional blackmail to me.
But for the most part, friends know that you have a bunch of other friends.
Yes.
And if you just can't do it, most people are understanding of that.
Yeah, and I think, like, and I'm not about to tell you what a healthy romantic relationship is. Not ever will I tell you what that looks like, because I have no idea. But, like, to me, what feels healthy, if I were in a romantic relationship, is, like, knowing you can delegate certain things to certain people, that not everything does rely on your freaking partner. Like, I'm going through, like, I'm somebody who struggles with an eating disorder. So, like, my partner, if I'm using the example of the last person I came close to having a romantic relationship with, like, they suck at eating disorder stuff, but I have people in my life that are good with it. So, like, why am I going to go to them first? Like, why am I going to do that? I'm going to go to the people who are good with it. Like, you just, like, delegating is good, in my opinion.
One thing I did like about polyamory when I practiced it for like a brief period of time was that at least it acknowledged that one partner can't be your everything.
Oh my gosh, and I keep trying to tell people who are in romantic relationships in my life who will come to me being like, because for some reason people really think I can help them with their romantic relationships. I'm like, that's weird because I've never been in one, but okay.
It's probably because you're so level-headed.
I mean, that's the first time I've heard someone describe me as that, but thank you. But no, people will come to me, and my solution always is...
dump them.
Well, I mean, yes.
Sorry, bias.
Yeah, no, I literally, that's always the thing, I'm biting my tongue.
Okay, what do you actually say?
What I actually say is, you need to delegate.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, you need to not be putting so much pressure or isolating yourself in your relationship, basically.
Yes.
That's always my advice, is you need to have other friends. You need to put value or effort into your other relationships. You need to talk to your girlfriends about this, or your guy friends, or whomever, your folks, you know? Like, you need to be able to talk to people outside of, because that's a sticky situation too when you're living with someone. Like, I have people who are like living with their partner, right? And it's like, you definitely need outside
you can't see it, but like, I'm rolling my eyes at the idea of living with a partner, but that's just my own bias.
Oh God, how do people do it?
I think if you if you're like planning on marrying someone, you should know them for 5 years, and you should probably live with them a couple years into that. Whatever, my opinion doesn't matter. I'm never getting in one.
Right, but I mean, I know people who've rushed into romantic relationships, and it never, ever, 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 ever is a good idea. It's just never.
Oh, rushing is bad.
Yeah, rushing is like, and like marrying people after like 4 months of dating, and I'm just like, nope.
Yeah,
nope, honey, nope. And it always is a mistake. I would say, like, there's a 1% people that I know who've rushed into, like, moving in with people or, like, marrying people who it's actually been okay.
Oh, is it the grandparents that couldn't get divorces because women didn't have rights? Sorry. No, I'm sorry.
As I sit in my grandmother's basement. Who, you know, that was a tricky relationship.
Sorry.
Anyway, yeah.
Oh, right. We were talking about attraction.
Right. Okay, last topic. We're at an hour. We'll see.
Yeah, okay, attraction. But yeah, I think it's really interesting to realize that I experience these different types of attraction and to feel like how valid that is. And an example of that is I recently had like someone come into my life where we bonded really closely. We talked a bunch. What I felt for them was different than when I want to be friends with someone, and I had access and open like room for that in a way that was not monogamous partnership. So we live in completely different provinces. They have an entire family in a different province, and I have my queer family in this province. So the idea of us living together is not an option. So like a long distance type of friendship was an option, but it also went a little bit different than that. I don't want to say beyond that. I don't want to say more than that. It's just different.
Right.
It's different in the way that like I want to be physically close to them in a way that I'm not comfortable being physically close to most people, friends, family, partners, whatever. I was immediately comfortable with this person because of our mutual experience. And I definitely like flirting with them. But a huge advantage of us living in different provinces means I don't have to contemplate monogamous partnership in a romantic context because that stuff makes me feel awful.
Yeah.
It makes me feel so trapped and icky. Yeah. And I guess it's just that, like, because I acknowledge my fluid identity, I know how not only fickle I am, but how fluid my identity is. So the idea that I would be with someone for long term doesn't seem realistic unless they're willing to give me a lot of leeway, a lot of room to grow and be a different person in a way that is not directly affecting them.
Right. And yeah, and that's a tricky balance that whole thing. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, hence why at the top I say I identify as, like, sexually fluid above all things, because I'm the same way and, like, incredibly fickle and don't know how I'm gonna change. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. And I always thought that that was so wrong of me, and so, like, how dare I not make up my mind immediately
Would
about
you rather
stuff.
be stagnant?
I mean,
What a-
no.
what a-
I'm a Gemini.
Yes, you are. All my best friends are Geminis, and that's the way it should be. I'm a Cancer.
Oh my gosh, wow.
I'm a big old crybaby, and I need some drama in my life.
I'm here for it.
I'm loving it. But yeah, is there anything in regards to, like, the other types of attraction you want to touch on, or do you feel pretty good about that?
I think you summed it up pretty good. I feel like our dialogue is, like, I'm sure we could add on all of this conversation in the future. I'm sure maybe we can revisit it, but, like, I feel good. I feel good with the dialogue.
All right. Well, thank you for literally anyone who has listened to all of this. Fingers crossed that Robot Girl can pull her robot magic.
Yeah, we'll see. Listen, we want to actually end up putting this on video, I think we talked about.
Yeah.
And putting it, like, up on YouTube, which would be cool.
Yeah.
So this is all totally experimental at the moment. Like, the audio, I hope it's good.
Yeah.
I hope it should be, but we just don't know. So, working out kinks.
Also, considering, like, how accessible of an art form, actually, I can just say that off mic. Fuck it. This has been Ghost Boy.
And this has been Robot Girl.
Okay.
And thank you for listening to our unnamed podcast.
Tangents.
Tangents. There we go. Okay. See you later, folks.
Bye.